Stoicism has always emphasized the importance of inner strength, independence, and the ability to remain unshaken by the world's constant fluctuations. In this light, staying single becomes more than just a lifestyle choice. It transforms into a powerful practice of self-mastery. When a person remains single, they are not bound by the constant emotional turbulence of romantic relationships. They are free to focus entirely on their own reason, discipline, and virtue, the three core pillars of Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius wrote that, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This truth becomes clearer when one is single. Instead of outsourcing happiness to a partner, the Stoic single individual cultivates inner contentment. They understand that external circumstances, whether in the form of companionship, affection, or validation, are fleeting and beyond complete control. What they can control is their reaction, their discipline, and their pursuit of virtue. Being single provides the perfect environment to build this resilience. Without the distractions of relationship drama, jealousy, or emotional dependence, a Stoic-minded individual sharpens their mind like a sword, preparing to face life's challenges with clarity. Solitude, then, is not loneliness but strength, the quiet ground on which greatness can be built. One of the key lessons in Stoicism is to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. Relationships, by their very nature, involve another person's emotions, decisions, and actions, all things that lie outside of our direct control. When someone chooses to remain single, they free themselves from this constant unpredictability. This doesn't mean Stoicism discourages love or companionship. Rather, it warns against becoming enslaved to them. Epictetus often reminded his students that attachment to things beyond our control is the root of suffering. Staying single allows a person to fully embody this principle. They learn to value freedom more than dependency, to enjoy their life without needing someone else to complete it. This freedom extends into every domain: financial independence, emotional stability, and personal decision-making. When you are single, you don't have to compromise your goals, adjust your values, or sacrifice your inner peace for the sake of another's expectations. Instead, you live by reason, guided by the compass of virtue, not by the shifting winds of desire. The Stoic single life is not a denial of love, but a prioritization of self, mastery over external entanglements. It is the deliberate choice to remain anchored in wisdom, rather than drifting on the unpredictable tides of romance. Every human being has a finite amount of energy, mental, emotional, and physical. When one is deeply involved in a romantic relationship, much of this energy is consumed in maintaining the connection, navigating misunderstandings, and fulfilling shared expectations. From a Stoic perspective, such distractions often pull a person away from their ultimate purpose, to live virtuously and cultivate wisdom. Staying single channels all this energy inward, towards self-improvement and personal growth. Instead of spending hours in emotional negotiations, a Stoic single person may devote that same time to reading philosophy, practicing discipline, or developing their craft. Seneca wrote that, "Life is long if you know how to use it, and staying single is one way to reclaim that time and use it wisely." By avoiding unnecessary distractions, the individual grows in strength, focus, and clarity. Their path is their own, guided by their principles, not diluted by compromise. In this sense, singleness becomes not a void, but a fertile ground where the seeds of greatness can take root. A Stoic understands that every moment is precious, and investing it in self-mastery is a higher calling than scattering it across fleeting emotions or unstable attachments. One of the greatest gifts of staying single, especially for those who practice Stoicism, is emotional stability. Relationships, while potentially beautiful, often come with volatility, arguments, jealousy, disappointments, and heartbreak. The Stoic approach to life seeks to reduce such disturbances by cultivating detachment from external factors. When a person remains single, they naturally shield themselves from many of these sources of turbulence. They learn to ground their emotions in reason, not in the unpredictable behavior of others. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that people will act out of ignorance, selfishness, or anger, and that he should not be surprised or disturbed by it. A single Stoic does not have to wrestle with the added complexity of a partner's moods or expectations. Instead, they practice equanimity, focusing on what is truly within their control, their own thoughts, virtues, and actions. This emotional detachment does not mean coldness but strength. It means that when storms rage outside, the inner citadel remains untouched. Staying single allows one to embody this resilience fully, reducing the risk of emotional turmoil and fostering a calm, steady mind ready to face life's inevitable challenges. Wealth, according to Stoics, is not measured by the abundance of possessions, but by the freedom from dependence. Staying single naturally fosters this kind of wealth, an independence that no external force can easily shake. Financial independence grows when a person doesn't have to constantly balance resources with another's needs or desires. Emotional independence develops when happiness is sourced internally rather than externally. Intellectual independence flourishes when one's mind is free to explore, learn, and grow without being constrained by another's opinions. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." In singleness, this freedom is preserved and nurtured. The individual becomes self-reliant, capable of standing tall without leaning on anyone else. In contrast, relationships often foster subtle forms of dependence, emotional reassurance, financial compromise, or even social validation. By remaining single, a Stoic enjoys the wealth of true independence, the ability to live fully on their own terms. This independence is not isolation but strength, the kind of inner resource that allows one to engage with the world without fear of loss, because one has already built unshakable foundations within. A central Stoic teaching is that unchecked desires are the source of much human misery. People suffer not because they lack, but because they crave. In relationships, these desires multiply. Attention, affection, loyalty, validation, and countless expectations arise. Each of these cravings makes the mind restless, always longing, never satisfied. Staying single creates the space to confront and master these desires. Without the constant push and pull of romance, a person can practice the Stoic art of moderation, aligning their wants with reason instead of impulse. Seneca advised, "If you would make a man happy, do not add to his possessions, but subtract from his desires." The single life provides the best laboratory for this subtraction. Rather than seeking happiness in another's approval, the Stoic single person cultivates contentment in simplicity, a quiet room, a disciplined routine, a clear mind. Over time, this mastery of desire leads to freedom. Freedom from the torment of needing more and freedom from the fear of losing what one has. In this sense, singleness is not a denial of joy, but the highest form of joy, because it is grounded in reason and virtue, not in fleeting cravings. No Stoic teaching is more urgent than the reminder of life's brevity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Time is the most valuable currency we possess, and relationships often consume vast amounts of it. Time spent negotiating, arguing, reconciling, or simply trying to maintain harmony. Staying single liberates this resource. A Stoic who remains unattached has more time to study, reflect, create, and serve. They can devote their hours to philosophy, to learning, or to building something meaningful without distraction. This is not to say that relationships are inherently wasteful, but they do require significant energy and compromise. The Stoic single individual chooses to invest their limited time in what truly matters: virtue, wisdom, and personal excellence. In a world where people are quick to squander their lives on trivial pursuits, staying single becomes an act of defiance, a commitment to using time well. Seneca warned that we are not given short lives, but that we waste much of them. By remaining single, one minimizes this waste and maximizes the opportunity to live deliberately, every moment directed toward growth and mastery. Clarity is one of the greatest advantages of staying single. When people are entangled in relationships, their life paths often blur under the weight of compromise. Dreams are postponed, goals are adjusted, and decisions are filtered through another's expectations. For the Stoic, such compromise can obscure the pursuit of virtue, which is life's highest purpose. Remaining single removes this fog. It allows one to pursue a path with precision, unclouded by conflicting interests. Epictetus taught that we must remember our role in life and act it out with integrity, regardless of how others might try to direct us. A single Stoic has the freedom to define their role clearly: philosopher, creator, thinker, leader, without external voices steering them off course. This clarity does not come from selfishness, but from alignment with reason. When one's purpose is clear, every action gains power, every decision gains direction. Singleness allows for this pure focus. Instead of dissipating energy across multiple commitments, the Stoic channels all efforts into the singular pursuit of wisdom and virtue. In doing so, they embody the clarity that is so rare in a world of noise and distraction. Self-reflection is the cornerstone of Stoic practice. Each day, Stoics like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius would examine their actions, test their motives, and evaluate whether they had lived according to virtue. This process requires solitude, silence, and time alone with one's thoughts. Staying single naturally provides this environment. Without the noise of constant social or emotional demands, the mind turns inward, uncovering its strengths and exposing its weaknesses. Solitude becomes a mirror in which the Stoic sees themselves clearly. It is in this quiet reflection that growth happens. When one can ask, did I act with justice today? Did I exercise temperance? Did I let anger control me? Or did I remain rational? In relationships, the demand for attention often interrupts this inner dialogue. But singleness allows it to flourish. A single Stoic learns to enjoy solitude not as loneliness, but as a sacred space for self-examination. Over time, this reflection builds character, sharpening wisdom like a blade honed on a whetstone. To live without self-reflection is to drift aimlessly. To embrace solitude is to steer life with purpose and clarity. One of the inevitable realities of life is loss. Stoics constantly meditated on this truth, reminding themselves that everything external is temporary. In relationships, this lesson is especially painful. Love can fade, people can change, and death can separate. The deeper the attachment, the greater the suffering when loss arrives. Staying single reduces this vulnerability. A Stoic who has built their life on independence rather than attachment is less shaken when external things are taken away. Epictetus said, "When you kiss your child, say to yourself, tomorrow he may die." This practice of negative visualization was not meant to produce coldness, but to strengthen resilience. Similarly, when one remains single, one minimizes the opportunities for devastating emotional collapse tied to relationships. This does not mean Stoics avoid love out of fear, but that they recognize the fragility of external attachments. By choosing singleness, a Stoic accepts impermanence with grace, knowing that their happiness rests not on the shifting sands of relationships, but on the solid ground of virtue. Thus, resilience against loss is built into the very fabric of the single life, making it one of the greatest advantages a Stoic can embrace. For the Stoic, reason is the highest guide in life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the rational mind is what sets humans apart, and that living according to reason is the path to virtue. Relationships, however, often cloud reason with passion. Love, jealousy, anger, and desire can easily overpower the calm voice of logic. By staying single, one creates the space to live by reason alone. Decisions are no longer dictated by the fear of losing someone or the need to please them. Instead, choices are made with clarity, guided by principle rather than emotion. This is not to say that love is inherently irrational, but it often brings with it a storm of feelings that test even the strongest mind. The Stoic single person avoids this constant battle, allowing their reason to shine unchallenged. They embody the teaching of Epictetus: no man is free who is not master of himself. By remaining unattached, the Stoic becomes the true master of their thoughts and actions, living not as a slave to passion, but as a free citizen of reason. Stoics practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the contemplation of potential hardships, and often imposed voluntary difficulties upon themselves to strengthen their character. They might sleep on the floor, eat plain food, or wear coarse clothing to remind themselves that comfort is not essential for happiness. Staying single can be understood in this same spirit of voluntary hardship. While society often glorifies companionship as the default path, choosing solitude requires courage and resilience. It is a training ground for independence, a way to prepare the mind for greater challenges. In the absence of a partner's constant reassurance, the Stoic learns to generate strength from within. Solitude becomes a teacher, sharpening self-reliance and resilience. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Singleness provides these trials, not in the form of suffering, but in the form of opportunities to build strength. By deliberately stepping away from the comfort of companionship, the Stoic gains mastery over themselves and learns that they need very little to live well. Stoicism has always encouraged simplicity. The fewer attachments and possessions a person has, the freer they become. Relationships, while fulfilling for some, inevitably come with complexity. Shared possessions, shared responsibilities, shared decisions. With this complexity comes stress, arguments, and compromise. Staying single strips life down to its essentials, allowing a Stoic to live minimally, with clarity and freedom. Marcus Aurelius praised the beauty of simple living, reminding himself not to be weighed down by unnecessary luxuries or entanglements. A single life embodies this principle. Without the need to juggle another person's desires, schedules, or expectations, the Stoic can focus on what truly matters: health, virtue, wisdom, and service. Minimalism here is not just about material possessions, but about emotional and mental simplicity. To remain single is to declutter the heart and mind, removing the noise of constant negotiations with another person. What remains is a life of elegant simplicity, where one's energy is fully devoted to the pursuit of reason and the cultivation of inner peace. Society often pressures individuals into relationships, presenting marriage or partnership as the ultimate goal of life. To resist this pressure requires courage, the courage to walk alone. Stoicism values this bravery, for it aligns with the teaching that one must live according to nature and reason, not according to the expectations of the crowd. Epictetus warned against being swept away by the herd, reminding his students to stand firm in their convictions, even if the world mocked them. Staying single, then, becomes an act of courage, a refusal to be enslaved by convention. The Stoic understands that it is better to live alone in virtue than to live with company in compromise. Walking alone does not mean living in isolation. It means walking with integrity, choosing the harder path of independence over the easier path of conformity. This courage strengthens the soul, teaching the individual that their worth does not depend on social approval, but on their own alignment with virtue. In a world obsessed with appearances and validation, the courage to remain single becomes one of the most stoic choices a person can make. Stoicism is not only about personal virtue, but also about service to the greater good. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that he was a citizen of the world, tasked with contributing to the welfare of humanity. Relationships, while meaningful, often narrow a person's focus to one or two individuals, consuming energy that could otherwise be devoted to wider service. Staying single liberates this energy. A Stoic who is unattached can dedicate themselves to their community, their work, or even the pursuit of wisdom that benefits future generations. Seneca wrote, "We are born for the sake of each other." But serving others does not necessarily require being tied to a partner. In fact, singleness often allows for greater mobility, freedom, and focus in service, whether it is through teaching, writing, leading, or caring for those in need. The Stoic single person embodies this broader vision of service. Their energy is not confined to personal attachments, but spread generously across humanity. Thus, staying single is not selfish, but, in many ways, selfless, an opportunity to live fully for virtue and for others. One of the central Stoic insights is that we control very little in life. Relationships, however, often trick us into believing that we can control another person's emotions, loyalty, or behavior. This illusion leads to frustration and disappointment. By staying single, a Stoic avoids this trap. They accept that the only true domain of control lies within their own mind, their thoughts, choices, and actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Singleness allows one to focus entirely on this truth without the daily tension of managing another's moods or expectations. A Stoic single person does not waste energy trying to bend others to their will, but directs that energy inward, cultivating peace. Free from the illusion of control, they live more harmoniously with reality, accepting life as it comes. This acceptance strengthens resilience and reduces suffering, proving that freedom begins when we stop trying to control the uncontrollable. Relationships often stir the emotions of jealousy and comparison. Even in the healthiest partnerships, insecurities can creep in. Fears of infidelity, concerns about attractiveness, or worries about being replaced. Stoicism warns against such emotional disturbances as they rest on things outside our control. Staying single removes this source of turmoil. Without the constant comparison to others or fear of losing a partner, a Stoic enjoys greater peace of mind. They measure themselves not against rivals, but against their own standard of virtue. Epictetus taught that we should not seek to be better than others, but to be better than our former selves. This is easier to practice in singleness, where one's focus turns inward instead of outward. Free from jealousy, the Stoic cultivates gratitude for what they already have. They learn that their worth is not tied to desirability or possession, but to their alignment with reason. Thus, singleness protects the heart from one of life's most corrosive emotions and replaces it with self-assurance rooted in wisdom. Stoicism celebrates the individual who can stand firm without needing external props. Self-sufficiency is a form of inner wealth, more valuable than gold or status. Relationships, though comforting, often create dependency, emotional, financial, or even social. Staying single tests and strengthens one's self-sufficiency. The Stoic single person learns to provide their own comfort, create their own happiness, and build their own stability. Seneca observed that the wise person is content with themselves, needing little from others. This does not mean rejecting all companionship, but rather refusing to depend on it for survival. Singleness trains the mind to be its own refuge. It teaches that true strength is the ability to thrive even in solitude. Over time, this self-sufficiency breeds confidence, the knowledge that one can face any circumstance without crumbling. When the storms of life come, the Stoic single individual stands firm, not because they had someone to lean on, but because they built a fortress within themselves. Stoics believed in living in harmony with nature, which often means choosing simplicity over excess. Nature does not demand constant drama, endless negotiation, or emotional entanglement. It is straightforward: day follows night, the seasons turn, rivers flow. Relationships, however, are often filled with unnecessary complexity. By staying single, one's life more closely mirrors the simplicity of nature. There is less conflict, fewer compromises, and greater alignment with the natural rhythm of things. Marcus Aurelius admired the way natural objects, like figs ripening or rivers flowing, followed their course without resistance. A single life allows the human spirit to do the same, to grow, to learn, to serve, without the added burden of constant interpersonal friction. This alignment with nature brings tranquility, the very state Stoicism aims for. Simplicity becomes freedom, and freedom becomes peace. Thus, staying single is not a rejection of life, but a way of living more naturally, more harmoniously, in accordance with the order of the universe. In the end, staying single can be understood as the ultimate Stoic choice, not because Stoicism forbids love, but because it celebrates freedom, clarity, and self-mastery above all. A single Stoic embodies these values fully. They live free from unnecessary attachments, guided solely by reason and virtue. They use their time wisely, cultivate their mind, and serve humanity without distraction. They are resilient in the face of loss, courageous in the face of societal pressure, and at peace in solitude. As Epictetus taught, happiness and freedom begin with the clear understanding that some things are within our control and others are not. By staying single, one fully embraces this truth, building a life on what can never be taken away: wisdom, virtue, and inner strength. Far from being a state of lack, singleness becomes a position of immense power. It is not the absence of love, but the presence of freedom. It is not loneliness, but liberation. It is the best thing you can do, not only for yourself, but for the world, because a free and virtuous person serves as a light for all.